breaking down every game, every day in Major League Baseball. This is the Baseball Betting Show. Here is your host, Greg Peterson.
Hey, warm and friendly hello! Welcome to lovely Las Vegas for the Baseball Betting Show with myself, Greg Peterson, now part of the VSiN Family Podcast. We've got an excellent podcast for us. We're going to be joined in segment number 2 by our good friend Chris Cichon. He does such great work over at WBAL in Baltimore. We have to take a look at the outlook of the Orioles as things are starting to look a little bit more grim over there, but entered into Saturday night, only 3.5 games out of that final wild card spot. We've got a murky American League in general. We'll chat about it with him and so much more. Then in the final segment, gonna get you guys picks and analysis on every game on the betting board for this baseball Sunday as we touch them all. First things first, shout out to all the dads out there. Happy Father's Day to you all. So hopefully we can make Dad's Day a profitable one. And if you do have a question, comment, segment idea, what have you for this podcast, you have 1 to 2 ways to be able to fire those in. First one is my Twitter/X timeline at gunit_81. Keep in mind, there's the naming does not matter. So as per usual, please send these into the timeline. And the other way is find an Apple Podcast review. If you rate this podcast 5 stars, it's very much appreciated from there. You're able to fire in whatever you'd like to hear on this podcast via that 5-star review. Did not get in any Twitter/X questions today, but boy, did we have a fun day of baseball on Saturday. Let's take a look back at it, try to find some trends, and try to get to know these teams a little bit better.
Games from yesterday is Greg buzzing about. Here is the rowdy recap.
The Reds get the job done against the Yankees by a count of 10-2. Will Warren gives up 6 runs out, only 2 of which were earned. In 5 2/3 innings, Ben Rice had a bad error out there in the field, and he was taken deep by Spencer Steer. He steered his way to his 12th home run of the campaign. Tim Hill from there, and out of the bullpen squirrels. Jake Bird gives a bird with a shutout inning, but Ryan Yarbrough 4 runs allowed in a inning, and then you had the position player Max Schumann come in for a shutout inning. Andrew Abbott, now 3 earned runs or fewer allowed in 11 straight starts, does give up 1 solo home run over the course of 5 innings of work. Paul Goldschmidt, 12th home run of the season. From there, Brock and Rolberg gives up a run in an inning, but TJ Antone, 2 shutout innings. And Chase Petty, he made teams feel petty. He was able to get a shutout inning of his own. The Slam Diego Padres, who slammed the Texas Rangers, this by a count of 6-4. For the Padres, you had Walker Buehler give up just 1 run in 5 1/3 innings. You had Jake Berger a little bit later on go deep off of Jason Adam, who's struggled recently. 13th home run season. Adam now above a 250 ERA, 2 runs allowed in his inning of work, but Kyle Hart, pair of outside the bullpen scoreless. Audrey Motorhone scoreless 8th and 9th innings, and then Mason Miller shutout 10th inning as Mackenzie Gore does not get scored. 1 run allowed over the course of 6 innings. From there, the bullpen was shaky though. Peyton Gray, he gives you a shutout inning. Cole Winn though, 2 runs, 1 of which was earned in 2/3 of an inning. Tyler Alexander not out of the bullpen scoreless. Jacob Latz a scoreless inning, and then Joe Ross, 3 runs, 2 of which were earned, including a home run to Manny Machado, home run number 13 of the campaign. And boy, oh boy, Joe Ross has been passed around like a basket of breadsticks, but the Padres, they maintain their above 500 record there. The Blue Jays are just 1 game below 500, 8-6. They take down the Chicago Cubs. Colin Reyes has hit by Parade to a nice start, 5 1/3 innings scoreless. Ryan Rolson, pair of outside the bullpen scoreless, and then the bullpen yacked this one away. Trent Thornton, 3 runs allowed in 2/3 of an inning. For the Blue Jays going deep, you had Dalton Varsho get his 6th home run in the campaign, and Kazuma Okamoto off of Jacob Webb, his 16th home run of the season. Webb gives up 3 runs over the course of 2/3 of an inning. Caleb Thielbar, a pair of runs given up in 1 out of the bullpen. Ethan Roberts, a shutout inning, and Patrick Corbin, not long for this game. He was taken deep by Mr. Matt Shaw, 4th home run of the campaign, gives up 3 runs in 3 2/3 innings. From there, you had 2 1/3 innings from Mr. Lazardo Estrada. He gives up Pete Crow Armstrong's 16th home run season, and Armstrong really starting to heat up, by the way. But then from there, Jeff Hoffman a shutout inning. Mason Fleury does not get a single out of the bullpen, allows a run, but Louis Varlin, he was able to come in for 2 shutout innings to be able to close the door there. The Atlanta Braves close the door on the Milwaukee Brewers, 4-3 the final as Kyle Larson, solid start, 2 runs allowed in 6 1/3 innings, was taken deep by Ozzy, Albies, 11th home run season. From there, Abner Uribe, pair of outside the bullpen scoreless. Trevor McGill, a scoreless 8th inning, but then with the Brewers leading by a count of 3-2 in the 9th, Ozzy, Albies, deep again. 12th home run season off of Aaron Ashby. Gives up 2 runs while getting just 1 out in the 9th. For Chris Sale, gives up 2 unearned runs in 5 2/3 innings. Guess who had the error in the field? Ozzy Albies. So he had himself an eventful day. DDA Fuentes, 1 1/3 innings. He allows a run. James Karinchak a scoreless inning, and then Dylan Lee, he gets a win. He was able to perform with a scoreless 9th inning. The Miami Marlins get the job done. This by a count of 6-3 over the San Francisco Giants. For the Giants, Trevor Old McDonald, well, he looked old in this one. 5 runs, 3 of which were earned to give it up in 3 innings. Bullpen from there was not bad. JT Brubaker, 2 1/3 innings scoreless. Matt Gage gives up a run in 2/3 of an inning as he was cranked deep in this one. A home run number 7 for Alberto Hernandez. Drifts him back 2 shutout innings, but Max Meyer continues to be rock solid for the Marlins. Only 5 innings in this one, but allows just 2 runs. Casey Schmidt did take him deep. 16th home run season. From there, Kay Gibson gives up a run in an inning, but Tyler Zuber, 4 outside the bullpen, scoreless. Anthony Bender, pair of outs scoreless, and Pete Fairbanks was able to end a scoreless 9th inning. The Washington Nationals continue to be above 500. They take it to the Tampa Bay Rays, this by a count of 4-3. Rays are now 25-10 at home, by the way, and Ian Seymour gives up 3 runs over the course of 5 innings, was taken deep by C.J. Abrams, 16th home run season. Then Jacob Cruz, who has been a flopperoonie at the big league level, his 5th home run season. That comes off of Cam Boozer in the 9th inning with the game tied as Craig Kimbrell's scoreless inning. Cole Sulzer 2 shutout innings. Boozer gives up that home run in an inning, and Kate Cavalli was pitching through food poisoning, only could make it 2 2/3 innings, allows 2 runs. From there, the bullpen did its part. Brad Lord said, "Oh Lord," to 3 shutout innings. Mitchell Parker, 2 1/3 innings scoreless. Clayton Beater does give up a run in the 9th inning, but for the Washington Nationals, they find a way to persevere there. And the Detroit Tigers, they persevere 4-1 over the Chicago White Sox. Sean Newcomb goes 3 shutout innings, a little bit more length than expected. And then Joe Rock, the projected bulk guy, gives up 3 runs, 2 of which were earned. And then from there, Trevor Richards, he gives up a home run in his inning work. Dylan Dingler, 17th home run season, did have Tyler Davis give you a pair of outside the bullpen scoreless. Chris Murphy, a scoreless inning, and Troy Melton, well, he doesn't get a lot of strikeouts, but he caused the White Sox to melt away. He gives up his home run in 6 innings of work. Sam Antonassi, 4th home run of the campaign. From there, Tyler Holton, 2 shutout innings. Kenley Jansen, scoreless 9th inning. Being able to get a convincing win, the Cleveland Guardians, 8-1, they take it to the Astros. I've been thinking that Spencer Arrighetti has been doing for some regression, and boy, oh boy, did he regress here. 3 home runs, 6 runs in total allowed over the course of 6 innings. Kyle Manzardo, his 9th home run of the campaign, and Travis Bazzana's 6th and 7th home runs of the campaign. Flipside, Joey Cantillo was great. 1 run allowed over the course of 8 innings. Matt Fessa had a fiesta from there for a shutout inning. For the Astros, you did have Nate Pearson give up 2 runs in an inning, and then AJ Blubaugh, Brian Abreu. They were both able to turn a scoreless inning. For the Colorado Rockies, a very low-scoring win for them, 2-1. They take down the Pittsburgh Pirates. Paul Skeens gives up a home run in the first inning. It was a solo home run because you had Jake Magnum dive for a ball, and he did not come up with it. Still a solid start. 2 runs allowed over the course of 6 innings. Carmen Bolshinski from there, 2 shutout innings. Tomoyuki Sugano does get taken deep in this game by Spencer Horowitz. 10th home run on the campaign. He allowed that in the first inning. Lone run he would give up in 6 innings. Jimmy Erget, 1 1/3 innings shutout, and then you have Brandon Bernardino give you a scoreless inning. Jaden Hill got the final 2 outs of the game. Magnum looked like he had a infield single on review. He did not, and that's how the game ends. This one ended with a lot of scoring as you saw the Philadelphia Phillies just absolutely lambaste the New York Mets. How about 15-3 the final? Freddie Peralta, he got 8 outs and he gave up 10 runs, all of which were earned. As Kyle Schwarber, he had a Schwarber bomb, his 26th home run of the campaign, and Bryce Harper his 16th. Schwarber was not done though. Cianel Perez from there gives up 3 runs over the course of 2 innings, 27th home run season, and he still wasn't done. Tobias Myers, 2 1/3 innings of work. He gives up a home run to Schwarber, 28th home run season. He would allow 2 runs in total. Zach Short, the backup shortstop, I believe, shutout inning, and Christopher Sanchez, he continues to be masterful, does give up a home run over the course of 6 innings as Mark Vientos, 9th home run season. Carson Benjay from there, he would give you his 8th home run of the season. That comes off of Max Lazier, who gives up 2 runs over the course of 2 innings. Yohan Duran in mop-up duty, he was able to get a shutout inning to be able to turn that one in. The Red Sox, they turn in a 5-1 win over the Seattle Mariners. For Connolly early and late, he was solid in this game. 1 run allowed over the course of 6 innings. Taylor Guerrero, Garrett Whitlock, Danny Kaluma, Linda scoreless inning, and Emerson Hancock. 5 runs allowed over the course of 5 1/3 innings. You had Weiler Abreu go deep. 9th home run in the campaign for Jose Ferrer. Pair of outside the bullpen scoreless. From there, Nick Davila, Alex Hoppe, along with Michael Rucker, they're all able to end a scoreless inning, but way too little, way too late out there. And this was a game in which you didn't see a lot of scoring, but the Orioles, we'll talk a little bit more about them with Chris Cichon. They get a 3-2 win that they badly need. Trevor Rogers won it, no runs allowed in 7 shutout innings. You would have Shohei Ohtani in 9th inning go deep off of Andrew Kittredge, 16th home run season. Kittredge gives up 2 runs, 1 of which was earned in a third of an inning, as this game was 3-0. Going into the 9th, Uncle Rico Garcia, Grant Wolf from a combined scoreless 8th inning. Yunier Kano, don't you know, he got the final 2 outs of the game to be able to get the job done there. And for Yoshinobu Yamamoto, he gets a start here where he gives up 3 runs over the course of 6 innings. From there, Edgar Enriquez, Alex Vesia, Jonathan Hernandez all lend a scoreless inning, but not a lot doing for the LA Dodgers at home. quite a bit doing for these guys. I'm doing this while the game is still going on. I do have to have this up by midnight Pacific, 3 o'clock a.m. Eastern. The Twins at one point led the Arizona Diamondbacks by a count of 16-0. Currently, this game is going into the 8th inning with it 16-7, but Zach Gallen, he just got destroyed. We know what happened in this game. That's why I'm doing it a little bit early. 9 runs allowed over the course of 4 innings. From there, you would have Gilbert Diaz, who now has a 94.5 ERA for the season, give up 7 runs in 2/3 of an inning as he was taken deep by Byron Buxton, 24th home run in the campaign. From there, Phil Abner has been able to give you 2 1/3 inning squirrels. Taj Bradley was not playing games here. He gives up a home run, 2 runs in total over the course of 5 innings as Ore Barosa, his second home run in the campaign. From there, Anthony Banda was able to give you a shutout inning. Justin Lawrence, he does give up 5 runs in the course of 2/3 of an inning. Eric Orze, he gets an out of the bullpen from there to be able to hold down the 4th inning. Twins, as long as they don't blow a 9-run lead, they're going to be able to get the win in that one. And then this game is going on as well as I record this. Once again, I have to have this up by midnight Pacific, 3 o'clock a.m. Eastern, but should know what happens here, though it is the LA Angels bullpen. Going into the 9th inning, the Angels were up by a count of 7-0 as Walber Yarena. How about 5 shutout innings from him? Samuel Natera and Ryan Zephyrian from their 3 shutout innings. We'll see who comes out in the 9th inning, but JT Ginn and Juice, well, he was serving it up and getting buzzed up. 4 runs allowed over the course of 5 1/3 innings. Scott Barlow from there gives up 2 runs in 2/3 of an inning. You had Jeff Hartley come out of the bullpen, solo home run allowed by him as it was home run number 2 in the last 2 days and of the season for Denzar Guzman. Again, don't know how that 9th inning went, but Angels should be able to get the job done there. And if you're taking a look at trend-wise, what we're getting in Major League Baseball right now, over the last 7 days, it's been a little bit of a mixed bag as the unders have started to come through. 45 unders of 43 overs, so that's right around about a 51% hit rate to the under. Favorites on the money line, hitting in that neighborhood about 57%, 50 and 39 on the money line. You saw 12 of those 50 favorites be unable to cover the run line, and if you're looking at the entirety of the season, favorites are hitting at about 55.5%, 617 and 494. Meanwhile, among those favorites, you saw a grand total of 145 be unable to cover the run line. And if you're looking at the totals thus far this season, we have now seen 29 pushes, 569 overs, and 543 unders, so about 51.2% to the over. That's what we're seeing in baseball right now, and that's where we're getting trend-wise. Coming next, let's chat it up with our good friend Chris Cichon, who does such great work over at WBAL in Baltimore, right here on the Baseball Betting Show with myself, Greg Peterson, now a part of the VSiN family of podcasts.
Breaking down every game, every day in Major League Baseball. This is the Baseball Betting Show. Here is your host, Greg Peterson.
And we're back here in lovely Las Vegas for the Baseball Betting Show with myself, Greg Peterson, now part of the VSiN family of podcasts. Always great to be joined by this man as we've got Chris Cichon aboard. He does such great work over at WBAL in Baltimore. He's covering a little bit of everything. You need the news out there in Charm City, he's got you. You need a little bit of a report on the Baltimore Ravens and their offseason, he's got you there. And day in and day out, taking a look at the Baltimore Orioles. I know that over there at WBAL, they're one of the flagship stations of the Baltimore Orioles, and you're able to follow Chris on the old Twitter/X at The Big Cheese Show. That is CHEE on Chi before show. And Chris, it's always a pleasure, my friend. Thank you.
Greg, thank you so much. Yes, we are the flagship radio station of the Orioles. So, we walk a delicate line as a station. Working Saturday morning as the anchor, one of our hosts came in hot and said, at the moment, it is not fun being an Orioles fan, given what this team has gone through this year. And if it's only June and the talk is of this team being sellers, it's a shame because there were some expectations coming into this year that they could try to compete, given that last year it was just a disappointing offseason that led into a season. But yeah, great to always be with you, Greg, talking baseball regardless, because we love the sport, and it's always great to be chatting about, not just the Orioles, but the teams they're playing as well.
Absolutely. And how about if we start right there? Because you give me a really nice springboard for that, because with the Orioles, they are below 500. Right now, they're in a series with the LA Dodgers, which if you're below 500, the team that you don't want to be facing is the LA Dodgers. But that said, for the Orioles, how much is there still some hope for this team, even though they're below 500, that they can get back in it? Because I think the biggest thing that is working for the benefit of the Orioles is sans the New York Yankees. This entire American League feels like it's a big, giant mess, whether that be the East, the West, or the Central.
There's not a lot of hope, Greg, admittedly. There was going into the rubber match in Seattle, because they had just gotten a nice little victory out there. And it appears, that Gunnar Henderson's coming about as far as his home run power is concerned. So is Pete Alonso there. So that was kind of a moment where you said, all right, if you can take 2 of 3 from Seattle, a World Series contender, going into LA, you got to like your chances at least to take maybe 1 from the Dodgers here, get yourself some momentum. But ultimately, they fell short there. And if you're looking at this rotation, it just really hasn't been good enough. I mean, Trevor Rogers pitching to a 5.86 ERA was one of the most unexpected things to happen across all of baseball. Shane Baz in his last start. Now, albeit Shane Baz ended up with a quality start going about 7 innings, but a lot of hard contact allowed to start the game, and they end up losing. And that was the rubber match that they lost 3-0. They were blanked as an offense. Again, Seattle's a good team. Logan Gilbert, Emerson Hancock, a lot of these guys that they're throwing at you, they're tough to hit. But you're the Orioles, and you did have the expectations going into the season. Now, Jordan Westburg's been hurt. You can't do anything about that. Jackson Holliday kind of going through the growing pains a little bit of being a young player in this league. Still have faith in him that he's going to be a great player. Adley Rutschman getting hurt. So that certainly doesn't help you out there. One thing I'll say about this Orioles team, and it might have been the most disappointing loss of the season Friday night, because to lose the game in that fashion, you're down 3-0. I was on the Dodgers' first 5 because I said to myself, Roki Sasaki is just going to be able to shut down these Orioles bats, and he was able to do that. Orioles finally breaking through. You had Alonso, you had Gunnar Henderson, as I mentioned, you had Jeremiah Jackson driving in a run, but then it just imploded. Ryan Helsley getting the blown save, and this is something we focused on a lot today at WBAL. Tyler O'Neill got the blame for that errant throw, if you even want to call it that, but if you watch it back, Samuel Basayo is using the term lazily appropriate, possibly. I mean, did not aggressively attack the ball. It gets away from them. Dodgers score 2 runs and they win 6-5. I mean, that's why the LA Dodgers are multi-year champions, and that's why the Orioles sit below 500. I mean, they're just finding ways to lose, and that was a really tough one. Tyler O'Neill, he gets a lot of criticism in this town. A lot of it deserved. But in this case, I don't necessarily think he deserved it there. Was the throw perfect? No. Basayo's got to come up with that. He got caught looking at third. Dalton rushing, delivering for the Dodgers. And that's just such a difference, too. I was talking about that today. The Dodgers get guys like Dalton rushing. That's not Mookie Betts. That's not Shohei Ohtani. That's not Will Smith. That's not Max Muncy. That's Dalton rushing, hitting 8th, and he's delivering too. So they're able to deliver from the farm system and through their free agent acquisition, something the Orioles have not been able to be able to do. And if the Orioles rotation isn't delivering for them like we're seeing right now on a consistent basis, and the offense, the top half doing well, but it's just not enough for them to be able to win ball games on a consistent basis. Now, I'm giving them a little bit of grace. The Dodgers just swept the Tampa Bay Rays. You and I talk about them quite a bit as they're an AL contender. Well, they just went to LA and got swept. So the Dodgers are the best team in baseball once again. We'll see how it plays out with the Orioles. When they come back into town here, they're on this West Coast swing at the moment, but there's a lot of chatter about possibly trading some pieces. And one of the topics that was discussed today would be Gunnar Henderson is probably, and maybe I'm getting ahead of myself with discussing Gunnar Henderson, the potential of him getting traded. But if you're thinking about it, Adley Rutschman, he's an affordable player. Gunnar Henderson, when it comes time to free agency, is not going to be. So what kind of, are you going to let Gunnar Henderson walk for nothing? He's going to test the free agency market when that time comes. So if they fall out of it, is it so out of the realm to think that they would shop Gunnar Henderson? I don't think so. Mike Elias, ultimately, though, his job's on the line. But do I think David Rubenstein's going to be firing him? No. So a lot of uncertainty, Greg, in Baltimore at the moment, but not a lot of positives I can say outside of some of the power bats are starting to show their head, but not enough at the moment.
Yep, I do agree with you there, as we do have our good friend Chris Cichon of WBAL in Baltimore joining me right here on the Baseball Betting Show. And I just take a look at this Orioles team right now, and certainly the lineup can be a little bit inconsistent away from home, but just how big is it the pitching right now? Because I just keep coming back to that as the biggest thing. Trevor Rogers really regressing from last year. Brandon Young, we're going to see what he's going to be able to do on Sunday. He's really been the nice find for the team, but feels like the 2 years of injuries for Kyle Bradish has really taken a toll for him. And I'm not sure how you feel about this, but Trey Gibson, I think he has some upside. He actually looked much better against the LA Dodgers than he had previously, but I think that they're probably demanding a little bit too much out of him a little bit too early right now.
Yeah, no, absolutely. He was what we were talking about earlier in the season when he was the first starting pitcher in Orioles history to make his debut at Yankee Stadium. So he's gone through it quite a bit here and asked to do a lot, considering this was a team that was thinking they were going to have Zach Eflin in the rotation, Dean Kramer, Cade Povich. This is a guy that was apparently struggling in spring training, according to sources, where Pete Alonso was telling him down in Sarasota that his arm angles were all off. So Cade Povich hasn't been somebody that's been contributing to this lineup here. Brandon Young has been, and that's been huge for this team. Trey Gibson, ultimately, he was the Orioles Jim Palmer minor league pitcher of the year. He went from high A to triple A, struck out more than 30% of opposing hitters. Now, minor leagues is different than major leagues, no doubt about that. We see that constantly. But I know that he has the pitching repertoire. He's just being asked to do a lot at the moment. But yeah, Brandon Young has been really the unsung hero of this rotation and somebody who has been a consistent starter for them. Didn't get a ton of, offensive backing in his last outing, but somebody certainly who is able to throw a nice breaking ball. I know that when he pitched against Seattle, there was a certain at-bat against Rob Repsnyder. I don't remember exactly the inning, but the ball absolutely just fell off the table. So we know that he's able to step up and pitch for this team. Now, the Orioles bullpen, as far as their ERA was concerned, I know going into Saturday, they were sitting around 4.56. Not great, but in comparison, the Tampa Bay Rays have a higher bullpen ERA as well, too. So, and the Rays are a team that we are considering to be one of the contenders in the American League. So is there room for the Orioles to improve on the bullpen? Yes. Do I see them necessarily making any sort of moves like that? Not unless they do go on some sort of a major run here. But yeah, talking about Trevor Rogers, this is just a guy to, in his last start against the Padres, I know that was a quality start, so I probably shouldn't totally take that away from him, but his strikeout totals are low. When we live in an era where we see pitchers trying to basically rack up the strikeouts and accumulate outs that way, that's not Trevor Rogers' style. And this is a guy that's recorded fewer than 5 punch-outs in 8 consecutive starts. So if you're somebody who bets strikeout totals, I'm not. That's not somebody I would necessarily be targeting. Yeah, so Trevor Rogers, certainly somebody that has not been consistent over the course of the season. And he started off really strong, too, in March against the Minnesota Twins. But, yeah, it's just not been great for this team. Now, some of the Orioles relievers, again, still kind of waiting to see what happens with their closer, the big mountain there. Certainly, Felix Bautista, somebody who we see with the strengths of a lot of these teams, for example, like the San Diego Padres, they have struggled offensively big time, right? But, when you have a back end of that bullpen that just is lights out with guys like Mason Miller and Jason Adam, you're able to kind of compete there. Not a ton of news with Felix Bautista at the moment. There was some talk about him returning in All-Star break, July, August. Don't know anything necessarily there. But, yeah, you see Helsley coming back. It was his first blown save of the season, so don't want to put, too much into that. But he didn't really look great in that Friday night outing against the Dodgers, so not exactly all that encouraging there. Yeah, the Orioles rotation has not been a strong suit for them, but, it wasn't good for them since they've had Corbin Burns, and then they didn't get Corbin Burns, and hindsight's 2020. He's been dealing with Tommy John, so, you say, great, we didn't sign him, but they tried to, piece it together with guys like Sagano, and that certainly didn't work out. And, Zach Eflin was a nice piece for a little while, but veteran pitcher, and he's been injured. So, yeah, just the acquisitions that Mike Elias has tried. Pitching, just by and large, with the Mike Elias era in Baltimore, let's face it, has just not been his strong suit here, bringing in guys like that. And now you have to wonder if the Orioles' prime years are behind them. 3 years ago, they were something like 49-25. They had just beaten the Yankees. Mike Elias was talking about how they're the cream of the American League. Didn't end up winning a playoff game. End up getting swept by the Royals and still haven't won a playoff game in over a decade. So yeah, it's starting to feel bleak in town with the Orioles, unfortunately, with the situation that we have at hand. Even with guys that a promising young core of hitters. But now the conversation is turning to, should we trade them? Because did we miss the window of when this team can be a winner?
Yep, and it's going to be interesting to look at that moving forward as Chris Cichon, who does such great work over at WBAL in Baltimore, joining me right here on the Baseball Betting Show. And I have to bring this up with you. How do you take a look at this American League wildcard picture? Because for as much doom and gloom as we've given to the Orioles, going into Saturday night against the LA Dodgers, 3.5 games out of a wild card spot, which that shows you where the American League is right now. I don't know if there's a team or two you feel bullish on right now, because I still look to the Blue Jays. They are a half a game out of a wild card spot at below 500, which I still find to be is absolutely insane. I think that there's upside with them, but I think, again, one of the biggest things for the Orioles that they can cling on to is that someone has to win these games, that other than perhaps the Blue Jays, maybe the Texas Rangers, I don't see a lot of upside with a lot of these middle league teams in the American League.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I mentioned how I was all about the Rays. And, after I listened to your show, of course, on Spotify, the Baseball Betting Show, the best baseball show, tuned into SiriusXM MLB, and I'm listening to whoever the hosts were. And I used to work at SiriusXM, all love to them. But they were doing power rankings, and they left out the Tampa Bay Rays out of the top 5 and included the Chicago White Sox. And I almost threw my phone. I couldn't believe that they were excluding the Rays. This was prior to them getting swept by the Dodgers. So, things tend to happen, baseball. And then the White Sox, who came storming into the week, then they get, run over by the Yankees in a number of games. So it is certainly back and forth. You have a guy like Kevin Gausman coming out this past Friday. He's somebody who's been a pretty consistent starter for this Blue Jays team by and large. Issues 4 walks in the first inning. Absolutely implodes, gives up all these runs against a Cubs team who struggled to put up runs at times this year. So it is very much, you don't really know exactly what's going to be happening a lot of times here. But if we are looking at the wild card picture, still mentioning the White Sox, still above 500, have to be mentioned in the conversation here. Don't know that they have necessarily the staying power. I'm going to believe in teams like the Blue Jays and the Texas Rangers, who I know we talked about a week ago. Jacob deGrom, I followed you on the team total over for the Padres there because I was seeing that he was giving up a lot of hard contact.
In the first inning.
Yes. Thank you, sir. That was a great call by you. Admittedly, just followed along, and we got the W there. Was watching that game and listening along, and the Rangers are a team that, you want to get a piece of because offensively, that they can drive in runs. Their rotation, too, Nathan Eovaldi, guys like that. They were able to go into Boston this past Sunday night with the Scotland fans going absolutely nuts and get a victory against the Red Sox. So that was certainly something that was to be impressive there, and it took the crowd, the wind right out of that lineup there. But yeah, the Orioles still in the mix. And the Minnesota Twins, I wouldn't say that jump out the page to me as somebody that's a major threat. I like some of the pieces that they have. They've got some good hitters. Byron Buxton still can deliver for you by and large. But if I'm looking at teams that I'm really thinking are going to be threats to the Yankees, because they've got Cam Schlitter at the moment as the AL Cy Young front runner. So I would say I'd put the Yankees as the front runners. The Seattle Mariners, they lead the American League West, think that that's probably going to end up being the case, albeit, they're back and forth with the Athletics, who I haven't even discussed yet. And if you go down the numbers with some of these Athletics hitters, guys like Nick Kurtz, his ability to hit home runs, has a great home run to fly ball percentage against right-handed pitching. Guys like Soderstrom, they can kind of get it done, this Athletics team too. So I think that they've got the ability to stay in there. Jeffrey Springs is a pitcher I don't know that I'd necessarily love running out there every fifth day. They don't have the strongest of starters. I know Severino's been hurt. So it's a mix of a lot of mediocrity at the moment coming about. But I think ultimately the Blue Jays are going to be there when it's all said and done. I mean, they've got the rotation still. They've got the hitting. They've got Vlad Guerrero Jr. and his power legs and the veteran lineup there. So I think that they're going to be one of the representatives of the teams, as are the Tampa Bay Rays. And then if I think one's going to round it out there, I'll probably give an edge to the Texas Rangers at the moment. We know that they have a veteran team as well, too. Only a few years removed from a World Series champion. There's been a lot of turnover there, but they were able to kind of revamp, adding a guy like Brandon Nimmo via trade, and they're able to bring it from a guy like Josh Jung. Those guys were able to have some power, too. So, yeah, I like what the Rangers are bringing there. I don't know that they're going to be a contender to win the American League or anything like that. And then, we didn't even talk so much about the AL Central. I know the Guardians are sitting atop the AL Central at the moment. We've talked about some of the pitching options that they've got, Ciccone, Gavin Williams, but not having Jose Ramirez is going to be an issue for them. They just are going to be battling it out with some of these other teams here. Even the Tigers aren't out of the mix in its entirety, but I think once they trade Tariq Skubal, that will be when they kind of wave the white flag, if you will.
Yeah, it's going to be really interesting to see what happens with Tariq Skubal moving forward, that entire AL Central. I mean, right now the Chicago White Sox are nipping at the heels of the Cleveland Guardians, so we've got a lot of fun to be taking a look at there. And Chris, you're doing a great job looking at so many different things, whether that be the Ravens, the Orioles, all the news happenings out there in lovely Baltimore, and so much more. So let the good people at home know it's on tap for you and how people can follow along on social media and other platforms.
I will be reporting this morning as the morning reporter, or not this morning, this week as the morning reporter. So I'm going to be getting up at 2 a.m. Eastern time and bringing you the news here in Baltimore. But Greg, I know that to you, that's a breeze considering how you are just able to dominate all aspects of the day, no matter when it is. So I'm preaching to the choir as far as being up odd times, but that's what I got going on. In a couple of days, we'll be doing that. And always a great time talking baseball with you, Greg. Thank you so much for having me on the Baseball Betting Show.
The key to not oversleeping is not sleeping. You can't oversleep if you don't sleep. So that has worked out very well for myself. Chris, he's doing such amazing work over there in the city of Baltimore, and always appreciate him. A big thanks, Chris, for joining me on the Baseball Betting Show, now part of the VSiN Family Podcast. And come in next, it is that time of the podcast. I give you picks and analysis on every game on the betting board for this baseball Sunday as we touch them all.
Breaking down every game, every day in Major League Baseball. This is the Baseball Betting Show. Here is your host, Greg Peterson.
And we're back here, lovely Las Vegas, for the Baseball Betting Show with myself, Greg Peterson, now part of the VSiN Family Podcast. It's always great to be joined by Chris Cichon, who's doing such great work over at WBAL in Baltimore. Taking a look at all the happenings out there in Charm City. Doing a great job on the baseball front, the news front, the Baltimore Ravens, and so much more. And every single time he joins me, he lends such great insight. So a big thanks to Chris for joining me in the last segment. Now it is that time of the podcast. I give you picks and analysis on every game on the betting board for this baseball Sunday as we touch them all.
If a game is listed on the betting board, Greg has a side and a total on it, so it is time to touch them all.
Do note that, as per usual, any changes that are made to these plays will be listed up on my Twitter/X feed at @GUNet_81. We're going to be going in Las Vegas rotation order. This is where we go through the National League games first in time order, then the American League games in time order, any intra-league games. Those are going to be at the bottom. That'll keep things all nice, neat, clean, and easy. So how about if we get things started with 9:51, 9:52. The Brewers are on the road against the Atlanta Braves. Bryce Elder hopes an outlook elderly for the Braves, and Robert Gasser goes for the Brewers. Total on this game is 9. The under is between -110 to a -115. Over is -105 to a -110. The Braves are between -136 and -145 favorites. +115 to +120 is that number on the Brewers. And I did side with the Braves here. I set them at a -138 with Bryce Elder. If you do take a look at the Baseball Savant page, you take a look at just some of the under-the-hood numbers, you do have to have a little bit of fear here, but he somehow, someway keep the ball in the yard. 0.9 home runs, 2.7 walks per 9 innings, 3.15 ERA, 3.75 fielding dependent, and did have a rough last start against the New York Mets, but has been able to do a better job when he has been at home rather than away from home. And for Robert Gasser, really good minor league numbers, has just not put it together at the big league level. Did have a nice start last time out against the Cleveland Guardians. This is a different ball of wax going against a team not named the Cleveland Guardians because they're so banged up. 4.88 ERA, 6.10 fielding dependent, giving up 2.3 home runs per 9 innings, and that's a big reason why I do like the over. I did sub my total at a 9.4. I do think that Elder is doing for a little bit of regression, and this is the Brewers unit that is in the top 5 in terms of run creation. They're not hitting a lot of deep balls, bottom 6 team in terms of home runs on a per at-bat basis, but you just take a look up and down the boulevard. where other than really Blake Perkins along Jory Ortiz, everyone that saw an at-bat for this team yesterday in the starting lineup was above a 335 on base. Sal Frelick was not in the starting lineup, so that's part of the reason why I was able to say that. But you've got a guy like a Jake Bauers who's been able to give you about a 375 on base, double-figure amount of homers. Jackson Trio's hitting a 300. William Contreras hits for just below a 300. So many guys that are moving the line for this team. And then for the Braves, you've got Drake Baldwin back. He's been able to give you 14 plus home runs at 370 on base. Ozzy, Albies, go Zeep yesterday. 11 bombs. He's hitting at 280. Michael Harris is hitting above 300. Double-figure amount of homers. Austin Riley hasn't even gotten going. You've dealt with the injury to Ronald Acuna Jr., but you've had these guys like Mauricio Dubon be able to step up. Orion Mateo has been able to do 275. Matt Olson, 20 plus home runs. And for the Braves, they are number one in the big leagues in terms of bullpen ERA. Sub-3 bullpen ERA with the Dylan Lee, Dylan Dodd both give you a sub-3 ERA. Robert Suarez, Racio Iglesias have been amazing. And for the Brewers, you've had the likes of an Abner Uribe, Trevor McGill have some issues this season, but they did get a lot of good length out of Kyle Harrison yesterday. Aaron Ashby has been able to give you a sub-3 ERA. Chad Patrick is a good long guy, but that said, I do think that both of these starters do give up some runs here. So, like the over, sub I tell 9.4. For the Braves, we'll lay up to minus 137 on the money line. 953, 954 on the card. The Giants are going to be on the road against the Marlins as Logan Webb is on the bump for the Giants. And Ryan Gusto says, yes, man, Gusto to another start. Minus 140 to minus 145 is that number on the Giants. Plus 119 to plus 122 is that number on Miami. 7.5 to 8 is the total on the 7.5. Over is minus 115 and the under is minus 105 on the 8. Under is minus 115 and the over is minus 105. I do like the over here. I set my total at 8.1. You have a Giants lineup that overall for the season has been in the bottom 10 in terms of run creation, but they're averaging darn near 5 runs per game here in the month of June, albeit a trip to Coors is going to help you out there, but this is an offense that has been much better recently. Bryce Aldrich has been a big reason why. He's hitting above a 300 with darn near 400 on base, and then Jungle Lee, Luis Rice, both of these guys above a 315 with their average. Matt Chapman is looking a little bit better. Now Rafael Devers, Willie Adames, you expect a little bit more from them, but both are now above a double-figure amount of homers. Devers more around about a 300 on base. Adames 272 on base. That needs to improve, but Casey Schmidt, he's hitting about a 290, 16th home run of the season yesterday, so they're getting good production there for the Miami Marlins. Not a team that's going to give you a lot of boom, bottom 16 in terms of home runs at a per basis, and you do need a little bit more towards the bottom of the lineup, the likes of Jacob Marcy, Leo Menez, Kyle Stowers, hitting at 225 or lower, Owen Casey in that fold as well. That's been a little bit rough, but Esteury Ruiz is really starting to pick it up for this team, and then Otto Lopez hitting well above the 300. Xavier Edwards about a 370 on base, and your main boom guy has been Liam Hicks with 13 plus home runs for the Miami Marlins. It is a top 10 team in terms of bullpen ERA, but you're really going to need to go to it quite a bit here, as right now for Ryan Gusto, it's been less than savory in his 2025 campaign when he was with both the Astros and the Miami Marlins, about a 5.57 ERA, giving up 1.5 home runs per 9 innings. It's been a very small sample size this season, but in that small sample size, 7.24 ERA, 6.6 strikeouts per 9 innings. His walks per 9 rate is well above a 3.5, so that's not amazing. And you've had a little bit of shakiness with the bullpen as well. You've had someone like a John King be able to step up, give you a sub 225 ERA. Anthony Bender has been solid, but now you're seeing Michael Peterson more around about a 350 ERA. Like Picard has been a really nice long guy, is now having to see more innings as a bit more of a bulk guy. Kate Gibson is above a 5 ERA, so you've seen a little bit of a fall off there. And then on the flip side for the Giants, they've been more around about a league average team with regards to bullpen ERA. We've seen Caleb Killian go down the toilet bowl a little bit. He and Match Gage both give you now above a 325 ERA, but JT Brubaker has been relatively solid. They've had a little bit of issue with Yoel Piguero in and out of the bullpen due to injury, but Dylan Smith has been able to step up. I think that Ryan Walker has a lot of upside as well. He's posting up right now at 5 ERA, but that should be able to improve. And for Logan Webb, throughout his career, he's always had some home and road splits. With Webb in general, I feel like he's pitched better than the ERA would indicate this season. 3.46 ERA, 2.98 fielding. Depending is he's only giving up about a half home run per 9 innings. You do take a look at the career numbers, and even though the ERA is far higher when he's away from home rather than at home, he still really doesn't give up the deep ball. 2.92 career home ERA. On the road, that goes down to a 3.89, but even away from home, less than 0.85 home runs allowed per 9 innings. So do think that the Giants get the job done. Set them at a minus 145. So in on that money line, I like the over. Sell by total at 8.1. 955, 956 on the card. The Pirates are going to be on the road against the Rockies as Michael Lorenzen goes for the Rockies, and Jared Jones is is on the bump for the Pirates. Pirates do find themselves as a bit of a road favorite here. You're going to be laying between minus 136 to a minus 150 with them, and between plus 125 to a plus 116 is that number on Colorado. 11.5 to 12 is the total on the 11.5. Over is minus 115, under is minus 105 on the 12. Over and under both the minus 110, and semi-total 12.3. I'm in on the over. For Jared Jones, has not looked like himself since coming off the injured list, and for Jones, he is still getting 9.3 strikeouts per 9 innings, so I do think that there's going to be some positivity doing for the relatively rocky ERA that we are seeing right now. He's got an ERA that is a 6.23, but closer to 5.06 fielding independent. For Jones, I do think that he's going to round into a little bit of better form as he missed the entirety of the 2025 season due to injury, and for Michael Lorenzen, it's just been a no good, very bad, terrible season for him. Now, the fielding independent is more than 2 points lower than the ERA of a 7.13, 1.5 home runs, 3.2 walks per 9 innings, and that jumps to an 8.44 when he's at home. He's backed up by a bullpen that's currently in the bottom 3 in the big leagues in terms of ERA. With this Colorado Rockies bullpen, Antonio Senzatel's been good. He's been able to give you a sub 350 ERA. Seth Alverson as well has been able to give you some solid innings, but with Victor Vodnik along with Jimmy Harrigan, these guys have both been banged up, and both of these guys have had a massive fall from last year. They're now both supplying an ERA that is well above a 4.50. Blas Castano is a long guy, right around about a 4 ERA, but Gene Hill over a 5 ERA. Juan Mejia has just went straight down the toilet bowl as he's posting up an ERA that is more in the neighborhood of about a 6 right now, so you've got a lot of issues there. And for the Rockies, they're still dealing with an injury to Mickey Moniak, so lone guy on the roster right now with over 11 home runs, Hunter Goodman, who's been a good man, 21 home runs as far as this season now. TJ Bromfield, 11 bombs, he's giving you 355 on base, and then you do have someone like a Willie Castro, Jake McCarthy, both of these guys hitting above a 275 along Tyler Freeman, who's been a little bit in and out of the lineup, but you need a little bit more from these guys like an Edouard Julien, Ezekiel Tovar, Jordan Beck, Brett Sullivan, a lot of guys in the 230 or lower end, though the Pirates have been much better with their offense when they've been at home rather than away from home. Still a top 5 unit in terms of run creation. You've been able to get a lot of production out of Brandon Lowe, who's been able to get loud, 18 home runs, and then Nick Gonzalez is hitting just below a 300. You had Spencer Horwitz along with Brian Reynolds be able to give you over a 375 on base. There's a few guys towards the bottom of the lineup like a Jared Trollo and company that you could use a little bit more from, but I'm liking what this lineup is showing even with the Oneil Cruz injury. And for the Pirates, they've been in the bottom half of the big leagues in terms of bullpen ERA themselves. You've had Isaac Manson along with you don't mess with Yohan Ramirez, both post up about a 4 ERA. Gregory Soto, Evan Sisk have really been the lone 2 guys that have been truly consistent as likes of Mason Montgomery, Brandon Bedoy. They've had their issues, but I do think that Jared Jones runs into form, and I think that Michael Lorenzen stays struggling. So, like the oversum, I told 12.3, and with the Pirates, set them at a minus 173. I personally was willing to lay up to a minus 115 in terms of laying a run half on the run line. Right now, I'm seeing that at plus money at a plus 110, so I like the run line of the Pirates and that over. 957, 958 on the card. The Mets are going to be on the road against the Philadelphia Phillies. Zach Whelan and Dylan Wheeler is on the bump for the Phillies, and it's going to be David Peterson, great name, on the bump for the Mets. And the Mets, they are on the opening number right now, only seeing FanDuel with an opener on this game at a plus 158, minus 188 with the Phillies. 8.5 is the total, under is minus 120, over is even. If you're looking to lay a run half with the Phillies, that is a plus 112, and as well and take a plus 102 or better. I'm going to be on the Phillies run line. For Zach Wheeler, I do think that he's doing for a little bit of regression. He's getting as low of strikeout numbers as we have seen since the 2020 season. For Zach Wheeler, he's a hair below 9 strikeouts per 9 innings, but he's still keeping the ball in the yard. 1 home run, 2.2 walks per 9 innings to go on. They say 8.9 strikeouts per 9 innings, 201 ERA, 339 fielding dependent. Good news is he also faces off against a Mets team that is in the bottom 8 in terms of run creation. Juan Soto's been great. He's been able to give you over 370 on base. He's been able to supply this team with now 17 home runs this season. Lone guy on the roster that's been able to give you double-figure amount of homers. Marcus Semien, Bo Bichette, they're starting to give you a little bit more power, but Semien's hitting at 225. Bichette is up to a 250, but not a lot of on base. Carson Benjay hitting about a 255, a little bit more respectable, but then likes of Louis Torrens, Zach Shore, Mark Vientos at the bottom of the lineup, hitting at 225 or lower. That has been all sorts of issues for this team. For the Mets, this bullpen has actually been quite good for them. You've got the likes of Brooks Raley, Oscar Brisbane, Austin Warren, AJ Minter, Luke Weaver. These guys give you a sub 325 ERA, so they have a little bit of a leg up compared to the Phillies, where you've got Yohan Duran, Ryan Kirkering, and the rest of the bullpen has been relatively rough. But with Zach Wheeler, he's been able to give a lot of length, so you probably aren't going to need to dive into someone like liking Jose Alvarado. They do have Brad Keller on the injury list, but again, not going to affect them as much in this game. And for David Peterson, he's actually pitched a whole lot better than what the ERA would indicate. And take a look at Peterson. Great name, not such a great 5.91 ERA, 3.75 fielding depending. He's not giving up the deep ball, 0.7 home runs per 9 innings. He's always been great at keeping the ball in the yard. 8.2 strikeouts, 3.9 walks per 9 innings, and he does face off against the Philadelphia Phillies lineup that they themselves have been in the bottom 8 in terms of run creation. You gotta love Kyle Schwarber. He's been able to give you about a 370 or so on base, 25 home runs, 360 on base, 15 home runs out of Bryce Harper, and then Brandon Marsh is hitting above 300. Outside of that, though, man, like all these guys, Trey Turner, Bryson Stott, Alec Boehm, Justin Crawford, you just go down the list of guys with a sub 300 on base, all give you a single digit amount of homers. They're just not giving you much whatsoever. So I do like the under in this spot, so I might tell it at 8.4, and for the Phillies, plus 103 or better, like that run line, 959, 960 on the card. The White Sox are going to be on the road against the Tigers as Cadillo Montero is on the bum for the Tigers, and Davis Martin goes for the White Sox, and the White Sox who find themselves as a slim underdog here of minus 105 to minus 102, meanwhile minus 110 to a minus 115. That number on Detroit is 8 is a total. The over is minus 115, the under is minus 105, and I set the White Sox at a minus 133. I'm going to be willing to side with them. For Davis Martin, I recognize that he had a rough start out there with the New York Yankees against them. And for Martin, we have seen a little bit of regression with him recently. He's given up a combined 15 runs over the course of his last 3 starts, but I think that this is a good spot for him. He faces off against the Tigers team that's in the bottom 6 in terms of run creation. They've got Gleyber Torres back on the injury list. Javi Baez is still now have the likes of Kevin McGonigal, Riley Green, both give you over a 375 on base. And I will say, you've had Dylan Dingler give you 16 plus home runs. Spencer Torkelson is up to 10 home runs, but still less than a 230 with regards to his batting average there. And then these guys like a Matt Vierling, Wencio Perez, who I think that he had some sort of a fluke injury happen to him a few days ago where he got hit by like an exercise band or something like that. That's sort of the bad luck they're getting with the Tigers. But all those guys at the bottom of the lineup, they're just doing absolutely nothing for you whatsoever. And then for Martin, well, he's got a 331 ERA, 290 fielding depends, 0.7 home runs, 2.2 walks per 9 innings. Certainly have to be mindful that this is not a great bullpen for the White Sox. Anthony Dominguez has not had the world's worst ERA, but hard to really trust in him too much in this sort of an ordeal. You've got Trevor Richards, Tyler Davis, who are above a 4 ERA, and Chris Murphy, they used him up yesterday. That's actually a good thing because he's got an ERA above a 5, but been able to get a little bit more out of Grant Taylor. And for the White Sox, they continue to be a top 10 team in terms of run creation. A little bit top heavy. Miguel Vargas, 350 on base. He's been able to supply 17 plus home runs. Colson Montgomery has 20 home runs, but only getting about a 222. And then need more of the likes of a Luan Acuna, Edgar Quiero, Jacob Gonzalez. These are guys hitting at 225 or lower, but Tristan Peters up to a 350 on base, Shade Meadroth a 340 on base, Sam Antonazzi moves the line, and for the Detroit Tigers, it's not like this has been some sort of magical bullpen. You've got Tyler Holden down to about a 360 ERA. I like Kyle Finnegan, sub 3 ERA. Kenley Jansen, not a guy that I really trust. In small situations, he's great. Like yesterday, whenever the lights are bright, he's awful though. Birch Smith is currently on the injury list. You've had a really bad season from Will Vest, who's got over a 6 ERA, so I do think that for the White Sox, they get the job done, even though Kadir Montero has been much improved from a season ago. For Montero, you can expect him to not really give you a lot of swing and miss, but he's been able to do a nice job in terms of, as I like to call it, keeping things on front of him. 1 home run, 2.1 walks per 9 innings, only about 6.1 strikeouts per 9 innings, 367 ERA. Do like the White Sox to get the job done. I like the over, so I told it at 8.1. And for the White Sox, made them a minus 133 favorite, so like their money line, 961, 962 on the card. It's the Astros. Playing goes to the Guardians as Slade Ciconi is on the bum for the Guardians, and Kai Wei Tang goes for the Houston Astros. Astros are a minus 130 to a minus 142 favorite, and between plus 110 to a plus 120 is that number on Cleveland with a total of 8.5. Over is minus 120, the under is even. Seeing a straight 9, that under is minus 120, and the over is even, and I like this total to the under. I did semi-total at an 8.3. Guardians entered into yesterday having scored 38 runs in their last 13 games. You could tell that the injuries to the likes of Jose Ramirez, Chase Lauder and company are really taking it out of this lineup. You've had some of the ancillary guys be able to step up though. Travis Pizzana has been able to give you about a 340 to a 350 on base. Brian Rocchio's up to about a 350 on base. Kyle Manzardo's looked a little bit better recently. Rhys Hoskins gives you an okay on base, but man, he's hitting a $180. Stephen Kwan has been rough. Patrick Bailey, not great there. Austin Hedges has actually been your best hitting catcher, so that's been a bit of a surprise with regards to this lineup, and now they're going to be looking to one of their young guys in Khalil Watson to be able to step up as well. And then for the Astros, they do have the leg up there, but they're a little bit of top-heavy team. Isaac Paredes has hit every single home run, I believe, to left field in his career. He's only been able to give you about like a 325 or so on base. Yordan Alvarez, over a 420 on base, 24 home runs, and then 18 home runs out of Christian Walker, hitting for about a 240. You could use a little bit more there, but man, he's been good. But look at the bottom of the fold. These guys like Zach DeZenzo, Jake Myers, Cam Smith, Bryce Matthews, a whole bunch of guys hitting 225 or lower with not a lot of power whatsoever. Jose Altuve is a little bit of a shell of himself. Yenier Diaz, he's giving you an on-base percentage that's less than a 290. So even though the Astros lineup is better, it's not leaps and bounds better. And for the Astros, the bullpen is starting to improve for this team. You get back Josh Hader, you've had the likes of Steven Okert, Brian King be able to give you a sub 350 ERA, but Bennett Sosa's on the injury list. Aniel De Los Santos, Brian Abreu, they've been giving you over a 4 ERA. AJ Bluebaugh is better, but not a guy that I really trust in too much. And then with regards to Kai Wei Tang, he's a guy that's really starting to see a little bit of regression. He's seen his ERA hike north of 4, and for Tang, he's right now giving up about 1.5 home runs, 4.3 walks per 9 innings. Meanwhile, for Slade Sassoni, he had a miserable start to the season, but all of a sudden he's pitched better. He's overall got a 4.60 ERA and a 4.34 fielding dependent, but 3 earned runs or fewer allowed in each out of his last 8 starts. They're getting Eric Sabrowski back off the injury list for a bullpen that, ever since May 1st, they've been a top 10 team in terms of bullpen ERA. Tim Aaron has been able to give you sub 350 ERA. Cade Smith has given you over 20 saves. He's down below a 3 ERA. I recognize that Hunter Gaddis has had a bit of an adventure of his season, and I'm not necessarily the biggest Matthew Fiesta fan, but that's it for the Guardians. I set them at a minus 101. I think that they win a low-scoring game, so I'm in on them on the money line. I do like the under. I set my total at an 8.3, 963, 964 on the card. The Angels are on the road against the Athletics, as we do know that Jack Perkins is going to be on the bump for the Athletics. This should be Reed Detmers going for the Angels, but currently this game is off the board, and it's a little bit of mystery there. But if you do indeed get Mr. Perkins going up against Reed Detmers, who right now I am seeing as a projected starter on Fangraphs and so many other places, I did set the Athletics at a minus 135. We'll lay up to minus 134 there, plus 136 or better. The Angels, and then set a total of 9.8, 9.5 or less, like the over, a 10 or higher to the under. This is not a fade of Reed Detmers whatsoever. I actually really think that Reed Detmers has been one of the most unlucky pitchers in all baseball this season. You look at the raw ERA of a 3.68, that's backed up by a 2.81 fielding dependent, 10.2 strikeouts, 2.5 walks per 9 innings. He's given up 0.7 home runs per 9, and he has only given up 5 earned runs over the course of his last 5 starts. That said, he is surrounded by a bunch of schlubs. Now, for the Angels, they've actually been a relatively decent hitting team away from home. At home, they can get absolutely no offense going whatsoever. They're a bottom 10 team in terms of run creation at home with 4 runs per game. That goes up to about 4.9 runs per game away from home, but have to think that there's going to be a bit of regression with now Mike Trout being out of the fold. Joe Adell setting fire to the rain. He's been able to give you a double-figure amount of homers, but isn't necessarily doing the world's greatest job in terms of moving the line. Nolan Juneau hits about a 250, and Zach Neto, 13-plus home runs. He gives you about a 330 on base, but he doesn't necessarily hit for a lot of average. You've had some of these mix and match guys like Jose Siri, Nick Madrigal actually do something. Trey Booba Mancini has looked good in a small sample size. Sooner rather than later, I think we're going to see a little bit of regression there, and this Angels bullpen is just absolutely awful. Like Alek Manoah was seeing innings out of this Angels bullpen. That's all that you need to know there. Like they were trotting out there Jordan Romano and Nick Sandlin. My goodness, that's not good. And then more of these consistent guys, Drew Pomeranz, Ryan Zefrian, Jose Fermin. These are guys that are posting up an ERA well above a 450. Brent Suter has not been himself this season. Sam Bachman, he's starting to see regression at about 375 ERA. Chase Silseth is like the lone reliable guy they've got in this bullpen, and fully recognize that for the Athletics, it's not necessarily the world's greatest bullpen in the world, but Hogan Harris, Justin Cerner, these have been guys who have been able to give you a sub 325 ERA. Luis Medina really was hurt by that Las Vegas series where that completely jacked up his numbers, but hey, Mason Barnett has been very good in this bullpen with the sub 1 ERA, and for the Athletics, all of a sudden, they've been able to do a great job with their offense as well. You've got Nick Kurtz along Shea Langolaires, who both have been able to give you 18 plus home runs this season, and for Kurtz, up to about a 435 on base. He is amazing at drawing walks. Tyler Soderstrom, you'll look at what he's done here in the month of June, and he's been hitting like well above a 300. He's up to about a 345 on base, 13 home runs out of him. Jacob Wilson is back in the fold. He's hitting a 285. You've had Carlos Cortez do a nice job, give you about a 360 on base. So you've got a lot of lethality there. And for Jack Perkins, you look at the raw ERA, it is well above a 575. He has pitched much better than this. Perkins is able to get a lot of swing and miss. 6.15 ERA, but more of a 376 fielding dependent. 1.1 home runs, 3.1 walks allowed per 9 innings with 10.8 strikeouts per 9 innings. So do think that there's lots of upside there. there. With the Athletics, willing to lay up to minus 134 with them, plus 136 or better in on the Angels, 9.5 or less, like the over 10 or higher, the under. 965, 966 on the card. The Mariners are going to be playing us to the Red Sox. Peyton Doley is on the bump for the Red Sox, and Logan Gilbert is on the bump for the Mariners. And the Mariners do find themselves as a pretty decent-sized favorite here. You're going to be laying with them anywhere between minus 140 to a minus 145, and between plus 118 to a plus 125. Then around Boston, 6.5 to 7 is the total. On the 6.5, over is minus 115, the under is minus 105, and on the 7, under is minus 120, over is even. If we can get to a plus 128 with the Red Sox, which when the dime lines come out, I think we should be able to get a plus 130. That'll put me in on them. I just have a tough time trusting in Logan Gilbert at home right now because he's had reverse splits from what we've seen throughout his career. Typically, Logan Gilbert is a merchant of being at home. Not so much this season. For Logan Gilbert, 3.43 ERA, 1.4 home runs allowed overall for the season, but 5.02 ERA with 2.1 home runs per 9 innings, specifically in Seattle. Now, the Red Sox, they are 29th overall in terms of scoring this season. They're averaging fewer than 4 runs per game, but 3.4 runs per game at home. That actually goes to about 4.5 away from home, which I recognize is not like a world beater number, but that's a league average offense, and you do have quite a few guys that'll be able to do an okay job in terms of moving line. Wilson Contreras has been your main man, 16 home runs. He's given you over a 375 on base, but then we got a lot of guys that are hovering in that neighborhood of, we're going to call it about a 320 to a 345 in terms of that on base percentage, as you've got Wilder Abreu, Mickey Gasper, Masataka Yoshida, Sadan Rafael, Isaiah Kiner-Falefa, all sort of in that fold right now. And then you've had Marcelo Meyer, Carlos Narvaez, Caleb Durbin. The infielders just not be great for the team, but the Red Sox continue to be a top 6 team in terms of bullpen ERA. Garrett Woodlock has been able to give you a sub 3 ERA. Tyler Semenaijo has been dealing with a little bit of an injury. He's been a guy that's really held down the fort for this team, but on top of that, you've been able to get some relatively okay innings here out of Zach Kelly and many others. And for Peyton Doley, 2.93 ERA, 0.7 home runs, 2.5 walks per 9 innings. He does a nice job in terms of keeping things out in front of him. Now, he has given up 3+ runs in 3 out of his last 5 starts, and for the Seattle Mariners, reinforcements are on the way. They have Cal Raleigh back in the fold, although I will say he's had a pretty miserable season thus far, and Randy Arozarena, he's on the injured list. That said, you do have J.P. Crawford back. Only it's for about a 221, but closer to a 345 on base. You've had Josh Naylor hit a 250 along with Julio Rodriguez, and Rodriguez is up to 14 home runs. Colton Young, another guy hitting at 255, and Colt Emerson, he's been pretty solid since getting called up to the big league level. 6 home runs in his first 90 or so at bats, and for the Mariners with their piggyback system, they should be a little bit more, shall we say, fresh with regards to their bullpen, and they need it. Cooper Criswell, Matt Brasher on the injured list, but you have Gabe Spire, Edward Bazardo, Jose Ferrer, who will be able to give you a sub 325 ERA. So interesting circumstance here. Think that the total is just too low. Semi total at a 7.1, so like the over and at a plus 128 or better, like the Red Sox money line. 967, 968 on the card. It's the Reds. Yes, we're on to Cincinnati. Was on to the road against the Yankees as Garrett Cole goes for the Yankees, and Chase Burns is on the bump for the Reds. And the Reds, they do find themselves as an underdog in this case. You're going to be getting with them anywhere between minus 104 to a plus 105. Meanwhile, minus 112 to minus 126 is the number on the Yankees. 8.5 is the total. Under is between minus 110 to a minus 120. The over is between even minus 110. And I'm in on the Yankees. I did set them out of minus 142, and I recognize that for Garrett Cole, he's probably not been as good as the ERA would indicate. He's had just a few issues in terms of getting swings and misses right now. 2.57 ERA, closer to 4.21. Fielding dependent, only about 7.7 strikeouts per 9 innings. Much of that was a byproduct of not getting a lot of swings and misses in his first start of the season. He's been averaging about a strikeout per inning over the course of his last 4 starts, so that's starting to come back to him. And for Chase Burns, he's had an absolutely amazing season thus far. For the Reds, a 2.01 ERA, 3.16 fielding dependent. He's got the 10.6 strikeouts per 9 innings. He is issuing about 3 walks per 9 innings. Now, he's been pretty unhittable recently. How about 7 earned runs allowed over the course of the last 5 starts? So he has been absolutely remarkable there. And for Burns, he's been pretty much having equal home and road splits thus far this season as well, which makes it all the more remarkable. Here's the issue that you've got with the Reds, though. Through the first month of the season, they were like number 1 in terms of bullpen ERA. Entering into the day on Saturday, 26th in terms of bullpen ERA. These guys like Zachary Maxwell, Zach McKembley, Tony Santillan, Lewis May, so many guys are posting up an ERA well above a 4. TJ Antone and Brock and Roll Burke have been pretty solid, but past that, it's a pretty dreadful bullpen for the Reds. They've been about a league average team in terms of their offensive run creation. They're still dealing with the injury. Dally De La Cruz and Voley Marte in that series against the Years and the Diamondbacks go deep in all 3 of them, but he's still hitting only about a 209. The catcher spot has been a little bit of an issue for this team. The young guy that they called up in Edwin Arroyo starting to pay a few dividends. He's a young 22-year-old. We'll see what he's able to do. And I like J.J. Bleday. He's up to about a 360 on base, double-figure amount of homers. Spencer Steer up to 12 home runs to help out cousin Sal Stewart, who's been able to give you about a 350 on base, and he's up to 14 plus home runs. But for the Yankees, they were a little bit unlucky with going 0 of 13 with men in scoring position yesterday. That should be turning around a little bit. And without Aaron Judge, they're still averaging about 4.8 to 4.9 runs per game. Ben Rice has been a star for this team, 20 plus home runs, 380 on base. You've got the likes of Paul Goldschmidt, Cody Bellinger, Anthony Volpe, all above 350 on base. They're going to be looking to some of these younger guys like a Spencer Jones, who's been pretty solid for them recently. And for the Yankees, it's not to say that they've got the world's greatest bullpen. David Benner right around about a 350 ERA. Camilo Doval has been rough along with Tim Hill, but Brent Hendrick, Fernando Cruz, they've been able to give you a sub 325 ERA. I like what I've been seeing out of Paul Blackburn as well, and I do think that there's a bit of regression here for Chase Burns. Now, I also do think that you're going to get a really low scoring game in this one. I set my total at 7.4, so I'm in on the under, and I do like the Yankees up to a minus 141 on the money line. 969, 970 on the card. The Rays are going to be playing those to the Nationals, as Andrew Alvarez is on the bump for the Nats, and Nick Martinez is on the bump for the Rays, and the Rays are finding themselves as a pretty mid-sized favorite here. With the Rays, you're going to be having to lay with them anywhere between minus 134 to a minus 145, plus 115 to a plus 120 is that number on Washington. 8 is the total. Over and under anywhere between minus 105 to a minus 115, and I'm going to side with the over. I did set my total at 8.2. Nick Martinez has been a master in terms of inducing soft contact this season. Have to think that there's going to be a little bit of regression there. 2.60 ERA, but a fielding dependent that's more around about a 3.57. 0.8 home runs, 1.5 walks per 9 innings, but 5.4 strikeouts per 9 innings, so you do have to have a little bit of concern there. Meanwhile, for Andrew Alvarez, he's a guy that I think is going to be a mainstay for the Nationals for quite a while. Andrew Alvarez has been pretty good in a small sample size. 3.49 ERA, 3.10 fielding dependent, 9.8 strikeouts per 9 innings. He does give up the 3.8 walks per 9 innings, and he's backed up by a lineup that entered in the series numero uno in terms of run creation. For the Nationals, obviously, it's been all about C.J. Abrams and James Wood. For Abrams, 16 home runs, about a 370 on base. Wood is giving you good Wood, 20 plus bombs, over a 4 on base, but now you've got Curtis Mead give you about a 340 on base, double figure amount of homers. Dylan Cruz has just never developed for this team, but hey, Down Lyle hits about a 250. Luis Garcia, Keibert Ruiz, these are guys that don't necessarily draw a lot of walks, but they're both hitting above a 265. And then for the Rays, you've got a big three for this team. Jonathan Aranda, Yandy Diaz, along Junior Caminero. All these guys have given you at least 12 home runs this far this season, at least a 370 with regards to on base. And then someone like a Richie Palacios gives you about a 340 on base. Hunter Fiducia, Nick Fortes have been solid at the catcher spot. So a lot of mix of Matt Jarrett, Chandler Simpson, one of the better base stealers in all baseball. Both of these teams are also in the bottom 10 in terms of bullpen ERA as well. Casey Lugumina and Cam Boozer have actually been nice finds for this Rays team in a Rays uniform and a Rays uniform only. Both of these guys are sub 325 ERA, but Cole Sulzer, Garrett Clevenger, both above a 4 ERA, like Brian Baker and Kevin Kelly, but have had a little bit of up and down there. And for the Nationals, they're starting to find some relatively good bullpen pieces. They only had Cade Cavalli go 2 2/3 innings yesterday. He was dealing with the food poisoning, so they had to use up their long guys like Mitchell Parker, Brad Lord. Do have a guy like PJ Poulin, Richard Dickey, Lovelady. These have been guys that have been able to give you a sub 325 ERA, so a little bit of improvement there along with Orlando Robalta, but I do think that you get plenty of scoring in this game, like the over sub I told at 8.2, and for the Rays, we'll lay up to minus 140 on the money line. 971, 972 on the card. The Cardinals are going to be on the road against the Royals as Stephen Golick goes for the Royals, and Dustin May hopes to make it May Day for the Cardinals. Cardinals between minus 120 to minus 122 favorites. Even money to plus 102 is the number on Kansas City. 9 is the total. Over is minus 110 to a minus 115. Under is minus 105 to a minus 110. I set the Cardinals here at a minus 112, so I do want to see what we get when the timelines come out. Right now, if you're looking to lay a run half with the Cardinals, it's only about a plus 125 to a plus 130. Personally, I'd be looking to get a run with the Royals at like a minus 145, minus 150 if I absolutely had to play it right now. But again, I'm doing this not having the numbers up from like Superbook, Circa, what have you. And I do think that when it's all said and done, probably going to be able to get the Cardinals more around about a minus 110 to a minus 112. That's where I'd be gravitating towards. But if I don't get that, I'll probably be in on taking a run half with the Royals. I don't necessarily want the money line though with the Royals, and the big reason why this bullpen is absolutely terrible. They are currently about a 5 team in terms of bullpen ERA. Carlos Aceves has has been on the injured list, and then you've had Lucas Ursich supplying an ERA well above a 5. John Schreiber has not necessarily been too consistent for the team. Matt Strom has seen his ERA go to right around about a 4. Steven Cruz has not been good, but I do like Tyler Kolek. He's got a 2.68 ERA, but he does give up a lot of contact, and as we know, they moved the fences in at Kauffman Stadium. For Kolek, 0.9 home runs, 1.8 walks per 9 innings, only about 6.1 strikeouts per 9 innings though, so have to fear a little bit of regression there. And for Dustin May, he has pitched much better than the ERA would indicate. Right now, 3.75 ERA, but closer to a 3.01 fielding dependent. 0.6 home runs, 2.3 walks per 9 innings. Maybe not absolutely bulldozing swing and miss stuff, but still 8.3 strikeouts per 9 innings. And when it comes to the Cardinals, not like this team has been masterful with their bullpen either. They're 19th in terms of bullpen ERA. You've had quite a few guys like Justin Brule, Matt Savanson, Ryan Stanek posting up an ERA well above a 4, but they've been able to round into a little bit of better form. Gordon Gassefo has seen a little bit of regression here recently, but all in all, I do like what I'm seeing there. And for the St. Louis Cardinals team, they have just been absolutely raking when they have been away from them. For the Cardinals, when they're at home, they're only averaging about 4 runs per game, 5.14 runs per game away from home, as Jordan Walker has been one of the best hitters in all baseball. He's hitting darn near 315 plus home runs out of him. Lars Nootbaar coming off the injured list. He's been able to move the line with over a 340 on base, and we've got Von Herrera, who's darn near 400 on base. J.J. Weatherholt has been able to move the line along with Alec Burleson. Nathan Church has been in and out of the lineup, but been able to get about a 265 out of him. You do need a little bit more out of the likes of Pedro Paz, Victor Scott and company, but it's all starting to come together there. And for the Royals, while they are better with their offense at home rather than away from home, this is still just an atrocious offense right now. For the Royals, they right now do find themselves in the bottom 10 in terms of run creation. 4.7 runs per game at home compared to 3.6 away from home, and you've been able to get some good production out of Bobby Witt Jr. He's been able to give you 10 home runs, and his on-base percentage is a 370. He swipes a lot of bags. Salvador Perez, up to 10 home runs. That's great, but he's giving you less than a 275 on base. Vinny Pasquantino's been banged up, but he's been having a rough season, and you just expect more out of someone like a Carter Jensen, who's only been hitting in that neighborhood about like a 240 thus far this season. On-base percentage has out been there. Jack Caglione is starting to put it together. He's hitting a 270. He's up to about 10 home runs. Miguel Garcia has been relatively solid as well, but just hard to have a lot of faith in this Royals team in general. So if we could get to like a minus 111, minus 112, we'll be looking at the Cardinals on the money line, and I did set a total here of an 8.8, so at the 9, I'm in on the under. 973, 974 on the card. It's the Blue Jays. They are going to be on the road against the Cubs, as Shota Imanaga is on the bump for the Cubs. Dylan Cease is on the bump for Toronto, and Toronto does find themselves here as a minus 122, a minus 126 favorite, plus 104 to plus 108 is that number on the Chicago Cubs. And right now I'm seeing an opening total of a 7. With that 7, the under juice is minus 120 and the over is even. And I set my total at 8.1. I'm looking at the over. You are going to have the wind blowing more outward towards the beginning part of this game. Now, it's going to die down as the game goes along. It's going to be a little bit more directional towards the back half of the game, but still, I do take a look at the spot, and I think that the total is just too low, especially with the way that Shota Imanaga has been pitching, as it's not been great for Shota Imanaga, to say the least. He has given up 4+ runs in 4 out of his last 6 starts. He's looked a little bit better in his last 2, but I mean, man, 4.26 ERA, 1.8 home runs allowed per 9 innings, and I really do think that the Blue Jays are going to start to get back online a little bit more with this offense. As for the Blue Jays, they have been a bottom 10 team in terms of run creation this season. They had a nice outburst yesterday, but I mean, they're a top 3 team in terms of field strikeouts on a per at-bat basis, and you've got plenty of guys that find a way on base. Yoendrick Biniago, Ernie Clement, Nathan Lukes, Vlad Guerrero Jr., Jesus Sanchez, allowing at least a 275 for this team. You've got even a guy like a Dalton Varsho now hitting a 255 this season. They just haven't had power. Kazuma Okamoto, 16 home runs. He's like the lone guy on the roster with a double-figure amount of bombs. For Vlad Guerrero, you just expect more than 4 home runs out of him. And it's been a rough season as well for George Springer, but he's starting to get online as well. And for the Cubs, we have seen the offense look much better. Pico Armstrong has been on a tear recently. Like, he has had a stretch of like the last 15 games where he has been towards the top in terms of like total bases over the last 50 years. I mean, it's absolutely incredible. He went deep once again yesterday, so that's pretty rock solid. And you still have guys that are able to get on base. You've got a lot of guys that are more in the neighborhood of, we're going to call it about a 325 to a 355 on base. Say Suzuki, Patrick Ramirez, Ian Happ, Alex Bregman, but Bregman and Happ, they lead the league in terms of men left on base. Happ has been able to give you a double-figure amount of homers himself, and now you're getting Matt Shaw back. He's been pretty solid in terms of hitting about a 250 as well. For the Cubs, it is a bullpen that has been overall for the season in the upper half of the big leagues in terms of ERA. They've been mix and match with the likes of Trent Thornton, Ryan Rollison, and Hobie Milner being able to to give you a sub-375 ERA. Miller has seen a little bit of regression recently, and Daniel Palencia being on the injured list, that does hurt them. And for the Blue Jays, it's a very top-heavy bullpen because you just haven't been able to get a lot out of the likes of Jeff Hoffman and company, but Tyler Rogers, Louis Varland, they've been able to give you a sub-225 ERA. Starting to see a little bit of regression with Braden Fisher, but Mason Flaherty does seem to be picking it up quite a bit. And for Dylan Cease, he does give you 13.6 strikeouts per 9 innings. The big issue that you do always have with him is the walks. He's giving up about 3.8 walks per 9 innings, so that could take him out of his start early, but still he's been able to post up a 271 ERA. Do think that as a result the Blue Jays get the job done. I'm willing to lay up to a minus 123 with the Blue Jays on the money line, and like I said, wind should be blowing out towards the beginning part of the game, like the over semi total at 8.1. 975, 976 on the card. It's Padres. They're going to be on the road against the Walker Texas Rangers. As it's to be determined on the bump for the Padres, it's to be determined on the bump for the Texas Rangers. They didn't do me a lot of favors here. This game is off the board, but this should be Lucas Giolito going for the San Diego Padres, and it's looking like Nathan Eovaldi is going to get the start here for the Rangers. If this is indeed the case, I set the Rangers at a minus 157. Willing to lay up to a minus 156 there, plus 158 or higher. Looking at the Padres, and set a total of an 8.1. 8 or less. Going to be in on the over 8.5 or higher. The under for Eovaldi has been moved around a little bit, as it's just been a big, giant revolving door with regards to Rangers starters. And for Eovaldi, overall 4.23 ERA for the season. He's given up 1.8 home runs per 9 innings, still getting darn near 9 strikeouts per 9 innings. And I will say this for Eovaldi, his numbers have very much been warped by the fact that he had just 2 really bad starts to the season. You take out those bad first 2 starts of the season, and it's maybe not peak Nathan Eovaldi or anything like that, but 3.43 ERA, he still has been giving up the deep ball right around about 1.6 home runs per 9 innings, so you should benefit by going against Padres team that hasn't been really hitting the deep ball too much. And then for Giolito, I just think that this guy is going to get absolutely tattooed sooner rather than later. He's lucky to have a 4.56 ERA. The fielding dependent, more around about a 5.94, 7.4 walks, 5.6 strikeouts per 9 innings. Not giving up a ton of hard contact, 1.1 home runs allowed per 9 innings, and he should benefit from the fact that this game is being played in Arlington. Out there in Arlington, it's one of the more pitcher-friendly ballparks in all of baseball, and I feel like a lot of people don't know how much this ballpark suppresses offense, and for both of these teams, they've been top 5 teams in terms of bullpen ERA. Jason Adam has now seen his ERA go above a 2. He's had a few rough outings here in this series. We're probably not going to see him in this game, but you've got the likes of a Mason Miller, Yuki Matsui, you've been able to give you a sub-275 ERA. Now, you do have out of the fold Jeremiah Estrada, he's on the injured list, but you've been able to have Bradley Rodriguez be able to give you a sub-3 ERA. Audrey Marjon is looking a little bit better, and then for the Rangers, you've got the Jacob Junis, Jacob Latz. Both of these guys, along Tyler Alexander, have been able to give you a sub-3 ERA. They get Cole Winn off the injured list. He hasn't necessarily been himself recently, but I mean, someone like Gavin Collier has been pretty solid for this bullpen, and then for the Rangers, you got guys that are starting to move the line for this team. Ezekiel Duran, Nicky Lopez, both hitting above a 270. You've had Jake Berger be able to supply 13 home runs. He's up to about a 300 on base. They're kicking the tires on Jared Kelenic, who feels like is just being passed around like a basket of breadsticks in Major League Baseball, but hey, don't call his name. Alejandro Ozuna has been able to give you over 340 on base. Jock Peterson right around by 335 on base, and for the Padres, you're just not getting a lot of power outside of Manny Machado, who's got 12 home runs, but he's hitting a $175, and then Jackson Merrill, Xander Bogaerts, the entirety of the catcher spot. So many guys that are hitting at 230 or lower. Kevin Sheets, he's giving you a double-figure amount of homers, but he's out hitting at 230 as well. Fernando Tatis Jr., he's actually giving you a 350 on base. He's okay in terms of getting on base, but I mean, he's had the 2 home runs thus far this season, so interesting circumstance here. 8 or less on the over, 8.5 or higher. The under, willing to lay up to minus 156 with the Rangers, plus 158 or higher in on the Padres. 977, 978 on the card. It's the Twins. They're going to be on the road against the Diamondbacks. Here's another game where they didn't do me any favors. To be determined for the Twins, to be determined for the Arizona Diamondbacks. So this game is totally off the board now. Fangraphs is projecting Brandon Pfaadt to be able to give you a battle here for the Arizona Diamondbacks, and for the Minnesota Twins, this should be in some former capacity Mr. Mike Paredes. They might be recalling Mick Abel as well, and if you get Mick Abel, I'd probably be setting this more around about a minus 145 with the Diamondbacks, more around about a minus 127 with Paredes, so be mindful of that. And then I did set my total, whether it's Paredes or Mick Abel, 9.5 or less, like the over 10 or higher to the under. If it is Mick Abel, who he might be coming off the injured list, he has just been a no good, very bad, terrible pitcher for this team. He's been posting up an ERA above a 5, could not find it with the Phillies, has not been able to find it here with the Minnesota Twins. It's just all sort of rough, and if you do get Mike Paredes, because this has been sort of his spot here, and we just don't know who the Twins are going to be throwing. I mean, he's been decent. He give you a 4.20 ERA in his couple of appearances at the minor league level. I thought that he was showing some relative promise there, as I mean, he wasn't necessarily lighting the world on fire with regards to the numbers, but still 10 strikeouts per 9 innings, fewer than 2 walks per 9. So I do think that there's a little bit of upside there, and for Mick Abel, it's just not there. And for Brandon Pfaadt, man, this has not been good to say the least. They tried throwing him out of the bullpen. That was not working out. They had to send him down to the minor leagues for a little bit. Like, they're just trying anything with this guy. 5.92 ERA, 5.44 fielding dependent, 1.7 home runs, 4 walks allowed per 9 innings. And you've got a Minnesota Twins lineup that is in the top 10 in terms of run creation. Byron Buxton just continues to mash home runs. He's been able to give you 22 plus bombs thus far this season. Now, the rest of the lineup can be a little bit touch and go, but still, you've been able to have Cody Clemens, Brooks Lee combined for 23 home runs. And for Clemens, he's hitting a more respectable 250 right now. Josh Bell's been solid here in the month of June. Overall for the season, he's still only give you like a 300 on base, but Royce Lewis, since he got recalled from the minors, he's been hitting well above a 250. He's looked a little bit better as well. So the offense is firing all cylinders. And then for the Arizona Diamondbacks, they've been in the bottom half of the big leagues in terms of run creation at home. Ketel Marte, Corbin Carroll, they've both been able to give you 12 to 13 home runs apiece. And the Marte parte is back to hitting about a 260. Carroll's up to about a 370 on base. And you've had Nolan Arenado really dip down with regards to his numbers. You've got some of these guys like an Adrian Del Castro, Pavin Smith hitting below the Mendoza line 200. Ore Barrosa has just never really been able to develop for this team. But the Arizona Diamondbacks also have the far better bullpen in this game. And whoever starts, you're not going to get a lot of length out of like any of these guys. As for the Diamondbacks, you've got the likes of Ryan Thompson, Kevin Ginkel, Juan Murillo, Taylor Clark, who've all been able to give you sub 350 ERA. I'm still not necessarily a Paul Sewell saying it. It's not think the Diamondbacks bullpen is great. It's 16th with a 4.02 bullpen ERA, but the Twins dead stinking last, a 5.18 bullpen ERA. Like, there's just nobody trustworthy in this bullpen. Like, I mean, everyone. Cody Lawyerson, Andrew Morris, Cody Funderburk, like every single person in this bullpen has a north of 350 ERA. Now, Yandris Gomez in a Twins uniform has a sub 350 ERA, but if you look at his numbers overall for the season, because this is like his 5th team in the last 2 years, I mean, it's just absolutely terrible there. So, yeah, that's a little bit of an issue. And as a result, if it's Pfaadt versus Paredes, minus 126 or better, looking at the Diamondbacks, more like a minus 140 or so if it's Mick Abel. So, if you get Paredes plus 128 or better, looking at the Twins, need more than a plus 140 if it's Mick Abel, and then 9.5 or less like the over 10 or higher to the under, whether it is Paredes or Mick Abel. And then we wrap things up with 979, 980 on the card. The Orioles, they're going to be on the road against the Dodgers as Emmett Sheehan is on the bump for the Dodgers, and Brandon Young goes for the Orioles. Orioles are a mono underdog here, plus 166, so a plus 180, minus 198 to a minus 220 is that number on the Dodgers. 9 to 9.5 is the total on the 9. Over is minus 115, under is minus 105 on the 9.5, under is minus 120, over is even, and I do like the over in this case. I did set my total at a 9.3. Recognize that for the Orioles, they do have some home and road splits. They've been one of the best hitting teams at home this far this season with about 5 runs per game at home, more like 4.1 runs per game away from home, but they're still getting the job done. You could use a little bit more on-base percentage out of Gunnar Henderson. He's been able to give you 15 plus home runs, but less than a 300 on-base out of him. But Samuel Basallo has been able to give you a little bit more stability, double-figure amount of homers. He's hitting above 250. Pete Alonso, 17 bombs. He's up to about a 330 on-base. Taylor Ward, only like 3 home runs this season, but hey, he's giving you a 390 on-base. They're dealing with Adley Rushman, deal with a little bit of an injury, so might not be available in this game. And then for the LA Dodgers, you've got a lot of guys that are starting to come into form. Shohei Ohtani back to 15 home runs, over a 400 on base. Andy Paz, Max Muncy, they've both been able to give you 14 plus home runs. They're both hitting for right in that neighborhood about at 270. Miguel Rojas doesn't hit for a lot of power, but he moves the line in. Mookie Betts had a home run earlier in the series. It looks like he and Freddie Freeman are hitting a little bit better. Still need a little bit more out of Kyle Tucker, but these guys that were struggling to begin the season, they're starting to pick it up. And strangely for the Dodgers, they're averaging about 6 runs per game away from home, 4.6 runs per game at home. I do think that starts to iron out a little bit. And when it comes to Emmett Sheehan, he's always been a much better pitcher when he has been at home rather than away from home. Now you look overall for this season, it's been a struggle. 476 ERA, a better 426 fielding dependent. He has given up a lot of the deep ball though. 1.7 home runs allowed per 9 innings. You do take a look at the career splits for Emmett Sheehan though, and on the road, it's just been a nightmare. 5.67 ERA, and on the road, he's given up about 1.9 home runs per 9 innings, closer to 1 home run per 9 innings, and 2.85 is his ERA at home. And then for Brandon Young, he's really been able to put it together thus far this season for the Orioles, but you have to have some fear of regression here. 3.18 ERA, closer to a 4.09 fielding dependent, 6.4 strikeouts per 9 innings. He's pitching to a lot of contact, and big thing with the Orioles is that they've been a bottom 8 team in terms of bullpen ERA. You've got Ynier Cano along with Uncle Rico Garcia, who've been able to give you a sub 325 ERA, but man, you've had Keegan Aiken along with Andrew Kittredge provide an ERA well above a 5. Ryan Helsley has been very shaky since coming off the injury list. Grant Wolfram, Anthony Nunez, these guys have not been the answer in the bullpen. And for the Dodgers, they themselves have been struggling a little bit with the bullpen. Tanner Scott has been a bit up and down recently. Jack Dreher has seen his ERA go above a 3.50 along with Blake Trinan. Kyler Hurd has also had some issues as well, but Will Klein continues to be consistent. He and Alex Vesia of sub-3 ERA. I do think that Edgar Enriquez has a little bit of upside as well. So with the Dodgers, set their money line price at a minus 208. I was willing to take a minus 105 or better with regards to laying a run half on the run line. Right now I'm seeing that more around even money, so I'm going to be looking at that even money run line. I do like the over, so I total at a 9.3, and that'll wrap things up for the Sunday edition of the Baseball Betting Show, now part of the VSiN family of podcasts. A big thanks to Chris Cichon, who does such great work over at WBAL in Baltimore, for joining me in the last segment. If you do like hearing from this fine podcast, Baseball Betting Show, you're able to subscribe wherever you find your podcasts: Apple Podcasts, Google Play, Spotify, Stitcher, and TuneIn. If you have a question, comment, segment idea, what have you for this podcast, do have 1 or 2 ways to offer those in. First one is my Twitter/X timeline at gunit_81. Keep in mind, LRCM, name does not matter. So, per usual, please do send these into the timeline. The other way is via an Apple Podcast review. If you rate this podcast 5 stars, it is very much appreciated. From there, you're able to fire in whatever you'd like to hear on this podcast via that 5-star review, and I'm with you guys every single day, giving you picks and analysis on every game, every day. So, I'll be back with you once again tomorrow. Thank you.